Welcome to the most electric podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name, Tanner Kern, certified G and a bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. And this right here, this is Grant Mitchell. What do I want to say about Grant today? What do I want to say? Grant is winning NBA bets like crazy, and you can't teach that. Bada boom. Man of the people in the room. Welcome to Ride the Line, presented by WSN. Grant, how you doing?
Round of applause, Tanner. One of the best intros that you've given me on this show, and it's pretty accurate. I'm up 10 units in the playoffs so far, so you can definitely be doing worse than that.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good too. We were just talking about Julius Randle last night, who missed his point total by a couple. That killed me, but obviously Steph Curry, huge last night. Got that PRA cooking. He was at 42.5 for his PRA. He went way over that. And the Warriors barely scored 100 points, which is crazy. I was watching the game and I'm like, Steph Curry is the Warriors. Without him, they have nothing.
No, absolutely not. And Tanner, your PRA king, Tatum, 24, 18, and 6. Might not have been the greatest game, but he hits the PRA just like he always does.
Tatum's pissed me off, though, because I took his points last game, and obviously that didn't come through. Like, he's so inconsistent right now. He just needs to be in Boston. And you know what? He's back in Boston tonight, Grant, and he's going to be feeling pretty good. And we're going to talk about that game in a minute. But before we do that, remember to subscribe to the WSN YouTube channel, guys. Smash it, Grant. What are they going to do?
Got to smash the subscribe button, turn on the bell so you get notifications when we post, like the video, comment, all that good stuff. We're going to be interacting with this as per always.
Definitely share it, like, subscribe, do it all, guys. Follow us on our social accounts and check out the website. That's all linked in the description below. So, Grant, without further ado, let's stop wasting time. Houston Harden is back. He helped the Sixers beat the Celtics. Obviously, he was sensational, another 40-plus point game. And then Jason Tatum fell apart late. And we'll talk about the timeout and all this stuff. But just initially, Grant, I want to hear your thoughts on James Harden.
Yeah, sure. And, guys, we are recording this on Tuesday. I know it comes out on Wednesday, so check out our socials. Again, you'll be able to keep up with our reactions to the game that's being the day that we record this, the game that's being played the day we record this. Look, James Harden has been one of the most maligned superstars in his career. He's won MVPs. He's had absurd stat lines. He's had years where he's averaged 35 points a game. And people mostly disregard it because they call him a self-centric ball hog, a stat sheet stuffer with no real accolades to show for it, and he gets to the playoffs and he's one of the most unclutch players in the league. Look, we've played 4 games in this series and James Harden has 2 game-winning threes. So he's finally starting to overturn some of that past stigma that's built up against him. In this situation, this was a very big game because Embiid was cooking. He had 34 points, but he was really ineffective in the fourth quarter. And Harden is off the ball. We know he's an on-ball guy too. So the fact that he's able to catch the ball, put it up, and he hits the game-winning 3, and it was a defensive breakdown. Like you said, we're going to dive into that pretty soon because we both got a lot to say about that. But just for what it was, huge game from Harden, and it was also very awesome that it happened to be in front of a survivor of the Michigan State shooting. Harden, I guess, struck up a connection with this guy who was a Sixers fan. He flew him out to the game. You could see him talking to him before and after the game on the sidelines. So it was really cool that Harden had one of the best games of his playoff career, arguably the best game of his playoff career. It was 3 points off a career high, super efficient from the field, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. Just all around great game from Harden. Can't say anything bad about it.
Yeah, and I think with Harden, it's going to take a lot for them to win the series, obviously. He needs to put 2 more great performances together like this for them just to have a chance, quite frankly, because when the Sixers have won, it's been a great game from Harden. Joel Embiid has obviously supported it in one of them. He wasn't on the court in the other. But it's more about the Celtics giving these games away than the Sixers being the better team on the floor. The Celtics were not coached well. They didn't play well. The superstars didn't show up. I mean, Marcus Smart was really good, but he missed a wide open 3 at the end of the game that could have iced it. There were just so many issues. Like when you're down 16 points, I think, at their biggest deficit, and you come back and you take the lead late in the fourth quarter and you have a chance to close out a game, great teams are going to find a way to close out a game in the postseason. The average teams are going to play down to their opponent and lose.
It was a very strange situation where you could say that both teams almost gave the game away. I do agree that the Celtics have been giving games away. That's just what they do. But I wouldn't necessarily say that was how you could define this game because they were down 16. Philadelphia was the aggressor. And Tatum was awful in the first half. I will give him credit for staying engaged because he finished the game with 18 rebounds. He was rebounding the ball really well in the first half, but he wasn't good. He finally got it going in the second half. He was able to get it done in overtime to an extent. But then, of course, the breakdown. And I mean, Tanner, we've been talking about Joe Mazzulla and how we're not fans of what he does. You say that he doesn't coach. I haven't been that harsh, but I've been saying that he's making a lot of egregious errors. Do you want to go first, or you want me to go first on Mazzulla here?
Yeah, let me go first because we go back to the first game they lost. Did they take a timeout, Grant? They did not.
No.
When Harden hit the three and they had one more possession, they didn't take a timeout there either, did they?
Nope, they did not. And
Right.
Tanner, I'll do you one better. I forget what game it was. I think it was towards the end of the regular season. But do you remember when they were, I think they were tied and the game ended up going into overtime? Tatum caught it at the top of the key and he twirled right and he went for a layup and he ended up missing it. But it was the same situation where they got into the action too late and Mazzulla had the timeout and he didn't call it. This is a theme.
Yeah, and I understand if you don't want to call the timeout, if you have the open look and you have what you want. But this play that they were setting up was stone before it even began. They were setting up the high screen for Tatum, get him down low, obviously, let him drive to the basket. He was getting double teamed the entire time. He could barely get the pass off. And then Tatum's basketball IQ to say, hey, there's less than 1 second left. Let me kick it out to Marcus Smart. Like, obviously, Marcus Smart made a big shot there, but it was after the game had ended. Like, you just can't do that if you're Jason Tatum. But this starts with Joe Mazzulla not taking a timeout. Why wouldn't you want to set up your damn offense? You have guys that can take shots. You have multiple guys that can take shots, and you don't take a timeout. Like, come on, Joe. And I look at this too. The Sixers know who's touching the ball in this spot. It's going to be Jason Tatum who gets the ball up high and does his thing and tries to go one-on-one to the basket. Like, that's just the way it's going to be. The Sixers know that, and they shut it down before Tatum barely even crossed the half-court line. And for Mazzulla not to recognize that and take the timeout there, that's even worse. I would want to take the timeout right away to set your offense up. But when the play was clearly shut down and they still had about 7 seconds left on the clock, why aren't you taking a timeout, Mazzulla?
Yeah, absolutely. But let's also just go back before that possession, because it wasn't only the final play of the game where he messed up. On the third to last possession, he wants Malcolm Brogdon to come into the game for Marcus Smart, an offense-defense substitution. Malcolm Brogdon, yeah, he's their sixth man, but he's a better shooter, better scorer than Marcus Smart is. So you want to get him into the game, but Mazzulla gets him to the scorer's table too late, so the substitution can't happen. So whatever, now Smart stays in. Now the final defensive possession, you're coming out of a timeout, so you should have everything set up exactly the way you want. You start with Marcus Smart matched up against Joel Embiid. And look, I know Marcus Smart is a competitor. I know he won Defensive Player of the Year last year. You do not want a 6'4" guard on a 7'2", 300-pound MVP. But whatever, it doesn't even come to mean anything because Tatum gets switched onto Embiid in place of Marcus Smart. Whatever. So now Embiid is going into his dance in the post. He's starting to back him down. And then Jaylen Brown comes off the three-point line to double. And I understand that Jaylen Brown took accountability and said that he needs to be more aware. And he does. He absolutely does. But Joe Mazzulla in the timeout has the opportunity to say, guys, we are up 2 points. We do not double off the three-point line. We don't help off of the three-point line in any situation. If they were up 1, then it's different because any bucket puts the Sixers ahead. But look, if Embiid, you leave him one-on-one with Tatum, he scores, it's still a tie game. You're going to go to a second overtime period if you're not going to win the game right there on your final shot. But Jaylen Brown helps out. Mazzulla has to instruct his players better than that. And then, like you said, the final possession, look, why do you have 2 timeouts? Doris Burke, as this has just finished happening, she's just told us that Joe Mazzulla said to her that he loves having 2 timeouts at the end of the game because he can use them to, if they're stuck and they can't inbound the ball, he can call a timeout. He can draw up plays. What is the point in saving your timeouts if you're not going to use them? You don't need 2. You don't even need 1. You're acting like you have 0. Like you said, should have called one as soon as James Harden made the shot, get everything orchestrated. Once they cross half court, time's running out. They still haven't gotten into the action. You call timeout again. And then once Tatum goes left and he's clearly running out of space, and I know Tatum actually makes a great pass, and like you said, Smart makes the shot, but you still have an opportunity to call a timeout with 2 or 3 seconds left when nothing has happened yet. And he did none of it. It was horrible coaching by Mazzulla. And I don't think that he's going to be this really bad coach forever. Like, it's his first year. I understand there are growing pains, but the simple fact is when you're in a position of the Celtics, which as soon as the Bucks got eliminated was you're the championship favorites, when you have bad days in the offense, it's really going to shine. And that's exactly what happened in this game.
And he should have taken a timeout before overtime. They had a chance at the end of regulation to make a shot, and he could have taken a timeout there too. He just didn't do it.
And why is Marcus Smart the big shot taker now? He had a buzzer beater attempt earlier in the series. He shot the one at the end of the regulation. He shot the one at the end of overtime. Like, I understand that Marcus Smart bleeds green and the Celtics want him. Oh, and by the way, one last thing. You remember earlier when I said Missoula wanted Brogdon in on the third to last possession? What changed between the third to last possession and the last possession? You're on offense for both. You wanted Brogdon in on one and not on the other. And another reason to call timeout. You take Smart out, you get Brogdon in. It was just bad. It's plain and simple. It was bad.
He left Derek White in, I think, to play defense, but then once they went down, he should have taken the timeout and got Brogdon in the game, just another score. It was a terrible performance out of Joe Mazzulla, terrible. But I will say the Celtics love giving games away, and it starts with Jason Tatum. Yes, he had 18 rebounds. I'm not paying Jason Tatum to rebound the basketball. I'm paying him to score early and often, and he hasn't been able to do it. Marcus Smart obviously came through, but he's got to knock down that shot. Like, in the end of the day, I know it's a high pressure shot, but that's a wide open look. And you got like 3 seconds to set up from the 3-point line. Like, this game really shouldn't have even gone to overtime. You got to make it there. Yeah, it's just a bad night for the Celtics. And now it's 2-2 going back to Boston. And when this podcast comes out, hopefully the Celtics are up 3-2.
I think the Celtics will be up 3-2. I do believe that. But Tanner, can I share something that's really concerning to me?
Yes.
So we did a debate on Live Take, and we were talking about who should be the favorites in the Eastern Conference, the Bucks or the Celtics. And this was before Giannis's injury, so obviously a lot has changed. You know, Milwaukee isn't even in the playoffs anymore. We know that. But I was saying one thing that the Celtics had working against them was they weren't great in clutch time. And you were making the argument, well, I'm trying to remember their record. Was it 14-9 or 16-9, something like that? You said, well, that's not bad. I said, no, it's not bad, but the Celtics aren't a bad team. They should be good in the clutch, just like they're good in the regular game, the rest of it. And they aren't as good. They don't play that same standard. In the playoffs, the Celtics still have the best net rating of every team that has participated. Of all 16 teams, Celtics still have the best net rating, but they are 11th in clutch net rating, which is the second worst amongst teams that are still left playing in these playoffs. And they're severely negative. Like, they're not scoring and they're giving up points in the clutch time. And they are yet to win a game in the clutch. They're 0-4 in clutch games in these playoffs. So, I mean, like, I understand that the Celtics are a very good team. I don't know if it's a mentality thing. I don't know if they just aren't resilient enough. I don't know if it's a Missoula thing for not getting them in positions to be successful. But something is not right with them when the games are close at the end. And that's why you can't trust them just yet.
If Boston doesn't go all the way to the NBA Finals, it will be a shame because they're better than Philadelphia. The 2 losses that they have is taking a great performance out of James Harden and them giving the game away. They're going to play the Heat, and the Heat just simply aren't that good. Jimmy Butler can take over a game, take over a series, but overall, that Miami team is not even close to Boston on paper. So if they don't get to the finals, it will be a shame.
Yep, I 100% agree.
Lakers, Grant. Let's talk about the Lakers.
Let's talk about the Lake Show. And this one fits in because the Lakers are playing the day that this podcast comes out. Again, we are recording on Tuesday. We release on Wednesdays. Subscribe to make sure that you don't miss out on any of our content. Lakers beat the Warriors 104-101 in Game 4, despite Steph Curry's 31-point triple-double. He had 14 assists, which beat his high in these playoffs of 12, which was the most he'd had in a few years in the playoffs. LeBron had 27 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. Anthony Davis only scored 4 points in the second half, but he finished with 25 points, 13 rebounds, 3 steals. Tanner, the MVP of the game, and I'm sure you agree with me, Lonnie Walker IV, 15 points, all 15 in the fourth quarter. D'Angelo Russell is 1 of 10 from the field. He gets benched. Lonnie Walker only started appearing in the rotation last game after months out of it. He comes back in. He's the superhero. He's the only one who looks like he hit a jump shot in the fourth quarter. He had 15 points again in the fourth quarter. The Warriors had 17. Easy to understand how the Lakers were able to come back and get that victory despite entering the fourth quarter down 7 points.
Yeah, I always was on the Lakers in this game. I thought they were going to cover 3 points. Obviously, they didn't do that. It didn't look good in the final minutes of the fourth quarter, I think with like 4 minutes to go. I didn't watch this game. I was flying home from Florida. But with 4 minutes to go, I was looking at my FanDuel app and I saw that the Warriors went up like 4 points and the Lakers were like plus 200 to win the game. That's the thing. If you're not live betting basketball, like you need to take advantage of the opportunities because the Lakers quickly even the score there. But Lonnie Walker was sensational, obviously helped AD in the fourth quarter because AD couldn't do a damn thing in the second half. And then Curry was sensational. That's the story of the game. And I bet this game on the fact that if you take away Steph Curry and you take away LeBron James and you put all other things even, like the Lakers are a much better basketball team. There's not even a question there. Klay Thompson was not good last night. He made a lot of mistakes down the stretch. Draymond wasn't good. Like it's not that good of a team. I think the dynasty is coming to an end, and the Lakers are a threat in the Western Conference.
They're not only a threat in the Western Conference, Tanner, they are now the favorites at all the major sports books. Most of them have them at around plus 150. Denver's about 170, plus 170 to plus 180, depending on your looking. I was just talking about net rating in the clutch. The Lakers have the third best net rating in the clutch, and their defensive rating in the clutch is off the charts. It's 74.4. Most teams are somewhere, if you not just the clutch, but over the course of the regular season, what's their actual defensive rating? It's usually somewhere between like 105 for really good to maybe 120 for really bad. 74 is absurd. It means nobody is scoring in clutch time. And one of those victims just so happened to be Steph Curry. He was sensational for 47 minutes. And then in the final minute, he has two looks. He has the mismatch. He has Anthony Davis on him on the perimeter. He's getting into his dance. The Warriors all game long, they had their only offensive game plan in the first half was we are not going to call any plays. We're just going to see who Anthony Davis is guarding. We're going to get his man to come set a high screen for Steph, and we're going to get moving downhill. Guess what? You got the switch on him. You got exactly what you've been targeting pretty much the entire game. Anthony Davis has a phenomenal defensive possession out on the perimeter, deep on the perimeter. One of Curry's shots at the end of the game was 29 feet. That's where Jordan Poole shot his from when the Warriors had the chance to win the game against the Lakers earlier in the series. Steph misses two shots in the final minute. He turns the ball over with 1 second left. He just throws it out of bounds when he's trying to get it to a teammate, even though he had a timeout. Very, very bad final minute of the quarter from Steph. And get this, he is now 0 of 14. 0 of 14 on go-ahead or game-winning shots in the final 50 seconds of playoff games in his career. That's not just bad. It means he is hurting his teammate and his team in every way possible. That's 0 of 14, Tanner, for the greatest shooter of all time.
That's terrible. He let Klay Thompson shoot the ball after those numbers. And also too down the stretch, like Draymond Green, like he made a stupid decision throwing that. Like that set up Steph terribly.
So that was a hammer action, which basically means you've got a man coming downhill on the strong side. You're trying to get a backside screen on the weak side. That was going to be Klay Thompson in the corner. I forget who was setting the screen. LeBron called the action out where Klay started at the top of the key, and LeBron told Lonnie Walker to switch out. And then he actually was responsible for telling Anthony Davis to make the switch on to Klay, which prevented the pass from Draymond. And at that point, Draymond is basically a step away from being out of bounds, and he has it in his head, I'm making this pass. Now, what he should have done, stayed on his feet. You have Dennis Schroeder guarding you, who's 6 feet, 170 pounds. Draymond Green can easily overpower him. I know Draymond isn't exactly the biggest offensive threat in the world, but look, you've still got, I think it was 12 seconds, somewhere around there. You just take the layup. That's all you do. You take the layup. You're down one. You force the Lakers to go make free throws. I know that they hadn't missed the free throw in this game. And by the way, you want to know why the Lakers won? They went 20 of 20 from the free throw line. But you take your chances. I mean, you get the guaranteed 2 points. If the Lakers make 2 free throws, guess what? You've still got 10 seconds left, and you've got the greatest shooters of all time on your team. You get another crack at it. But he committed the classic cardinal sin. Left his feet with nowhere to go with the ball. Just had to throw it to anybody, and that person ended up being a Laker.
Yep. Well, Grant, this series is pretty much over, so we can move on. Suns and Nuggets. Suns beat the Nuggets 129 to 124. I want to talk about Nikola Jokic for a minute because I bet his points plus rebounds total. My thought process was he had 17 assists in game one. He had 16 assists in game one, 17 in game two or something. He had crazy assist numbers early on, but that last game he passed up a lot of shooting opportunities and he started to pass the ball a little more. So my thought process was he's going to be good under the hoop. He's going to be grabbing rebounds the entire night because that's just what he does. Assists are going to go down. Obviously, the assists came down a little bit. He still had 11 and 53 points. So my theory was right, but I bet his rebounds plus point total, which was 42.5, and he hit it with just the point. So huge night for him. 53 points. I felt the Nuggets gave this game away a little bit. I think the Suns, obviously, they earned it. It took a great night from Devin Booker and Kevin Durant again. That's what it's going to take because they just don't have a lot of bench strength right now. But I still believe the Nuggets will win this game just because win the series because they have home court. What do you think?
Well, what I think you're shortchanging the Suns bench because I have been their biggest critic of all. I mean, do you remember when the Durant trade happened? I came on this show and I said, I still don't think the Suns are favorites in the Western Conference. They're probably my second or third best team right now. And I think I'm being proven right. I said the Lakers were better than them and I was laughed at. But look, the Suns, their bench has been terrible throughout the playoffs until the last game. They won the bench battle 40-11. Every time the Nuggets wanted to come back, and they were keeping the pressure down. They were standing right on top of the on top of the Suns, like saying, if you mess up, we are here to capitalize. And it was Landry Shamet who makes 4 threes in the fourth quarter. So he was huge for them. TJ Warren makes a big shot in the fourth. And Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, they both go for 36. Durant is amazing, but I honestly don't even care. We have to talk about what Devin Booker is doing. He's averaging 37 points per game in the playoffs, shooting 60% from the field. A 6'5" guard shooting 60% on high volume is unreal. And he's shooting 52% from three and 87% at the free throw line. I'm not joking, Tanner. I said this on my personal show. I'm not joking. If he makes it to the NBA Finals, I don't think he has to win. If he makes it to the NBA Finals doing what he is doing, it's the greatest playoff performance that we have ever seen. I mean, nobody through 9 games has averaged this many points on these shooting splits. So you can say he's already off to the best offensive start ever. But if he just makes it to that championship game, we can look back and say, wow, this is the best that any player has ever done in the playoffs. And we've also really got to reevaluate, where do we have Devin Booker in the NBA right now? Because Devin Booker looks miles better than Kevin Durant right now. And I'm not even saying Kevin Durant just looks bad, but Devin Booker is that entire team. I mean, he's shooting 79% and averaging 41 points across the last 2 games, the games the Suns won. Like, yeah. Go ahead. He's just been off the charts.
So he's gone over 2.5 threes, I believe, in 8 of 9 games in the playoffs right now. Like, he's been sensational from the 3-point lines, just high bulk, high volume. Like you said, he's making everything. I think the thing with KD is, like, not playing a good chunk of the season has shown down the stretch when he's got to Phoenix. And we talk about the bench, though, like, even though Devin Booker has been sensational and won games, like, they're still going to need the bench to win the finals. I'm not going to say Devin Booker is going to do it all along with KD, because they obviously won this game because of their bench. But I don't look at these like outlier performances. I look at consistency. You know, Devin Booker is going to show up every night. You know, KD is going to show up most of the time, but the bench is not going to show up. And even though Booker is putting together one of the best playoff performances of all time, I just don't know if I can count on this Suns team if they get to the next round, if they get to the NBA Finals, because the bench has not been consistent.
No, I'm 100% there with you. And this is very strange to say, because you want to say that it's impossible for Devin Booker to keep this up when he has quite literally kept it up in every game. He has been phenomenal in every game of the playoffs. But look, the simple fact is, you can't bake on, I ran track and field, right? If you go into the Olympics, you can't bank on somebody setting a world record. If you're going into the Super Bowl and, let's just say, who knows? Let's say everybody on the Kansas City Chiefs is injured and it's literally just Patrick Mahomes. You can't bank on him throwing for 700 yards. You can't bank on these phenomenal achievements, these never before seen feats to happen. And that's what Devin Booker is doing. So as incredible as he has been, nothing but respect. It's not logical for me to expect him to give me 37 a night on 60% from the field. And if he doesn't, this series would be over. The Nuggets, they only lost by 5 points. And I know Jokic had 53, Murray had 28, but nobody else had more than 11. Their bench was -11, -11, -17. So you can say there were flaws in that Nuggets performance. And look, they're going back to their home arena. They had the best home record in the NBA this season. They were 35-6. They won both of the first 2 games in the series at home pretty convincingly. I know this podcast comes out the day after the game, so we're going to be able to see what happened. But I'm betting the Nuggets -5.5 tonight, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ends in 6. If it has to go 7, so be it. But the Nuggets are getting this done. I just don't have Phoenix I don't have faith in Phoenix finding their bench for multiple games.
Well, it's kind of like the Celtics series too. Like, when you look at at the Sixers. Are they going to be able to have James Harden step up and score 40 plus and then have a great night from Joel Embiid and then get performances out of their bench players? Like, you just don't know if that's going to happen. Like, I have more faith in the Celtics being consistent than the Sixers, especially with 2 more games at home. Same thing with this series. The Nuggets have 2 more games at home. If this series does go 7, I believe Jokic is going to be just fine. He's going to be able to make shots from down low. I think their team overall is better, and I don't have any faith in the Suns bench consistently over the rest of the series. And Devin Booker, he's got to come back to the mean eventually. He's not going to make 40. He's not going to have 40 points a night. It's just not going to happen throughout the rest of the playoffs. Like, he's got to come back to the mean at some point. And can he do it for the next 3 games? We'll see. But I'm going to be on the Nuggets -5 here and still taking the Nuggets win the series with these.
Yep, 100%, Tanner.
Heat, 109-101, Grant.
Tanner, I've got to be honest. I enjoy watching the Heat play. I enjoy watching Jimmy Butler play. I think Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA, but I just haven't had a great time watching this series because I've known what's going to happen from the start. The Knicks aren't going to make shots. They shot 28% from 3 in the first round. Guess what? They're still shooting 28% from 3 in the playoffs because they're doing the same thing in this round. Julius Randle severely underperforming how he did in the regular season. I mean, he had an okay game. He had 18 points, 12 rebounds. Those are his averages in these series. He's been okay, 18 points, 12 rebounds, 43% from the field. That's down significantly from where it was. He's also shooting 22% from 3. Considering he's a high volume shooter, that's not good. Jalen Brunson has stepped up. He looks like a very reliable number 2 on a team that could go to the conference finals or the finals, but you need somebody to be the one. That person in theory is Randall, and he's not playing like it at all. Meanwhile, the Heat, they've got it figured out, man. I mean, Eric Spoelstra is kind of like a mad scientist. He can get undrafted free agents. The Heat are playing 7 undrafted free agents in these playoffs, by the way. That blows my mind. And they're going to be the 8th seed. They were the first 8 seed to ever win a first round. They're going to win the second round too. They're going to go to the conference finals. And look, we're still projecting this, obviously, but if they match up with the Sixers or the Celtics, I don't really think it matters who. I think at minimum, we're picking that to go 6. I think we'd probably pick it to go 7 too, because the Heat, they're just a team of fighters.
Yeah, I agree. I think 6 or 7 games. I don't think the Heat get all the way to the NBA Finals, whether they're playing the Sixers or the Celtics. They have a better chance against the Sixers, obviously, because can you count on those consistent performances from James Harden, who's known as a choke artist in the playoffs? But it comes down to Jimmy Butler. Is Jimmy Butler going to be great? He is the entire team, and he has been. 27 points, 10 assists last night, as you said there. I like Miami to win this series, and I like them to get to the next series. Obviously, I can't see them doing a lot because they don't have a great team around Butler, and it does take a great team. Whether you're fighters or not, stars win in the NBA, and they're outmatched by the stars that the Celtics or the Sixers have. Knicks, Julius Randle just has not been in check. He hasn't wanted to do anything, it seems like, ever since the injury. He really just hasn't come back and had any fire under his belly. You look at Jalen Brunson, has not been as good as we saw in the first round, especially in the second half of games. They're just not getting the performances they need out of the guys in the big-time spots. They need to make shots. They need to make three-pointers, and they haven't been able to do it. And if you can't do that, you're not going to beat a ground-and-pound team like the Heat that likes to slow the pace of the play down, and they just wear you out throughout the course of 48 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. I think, look, the Heat are up 3-1. Only 13 teams in NBA history have come back from a 3-1 deficit. I don't think it's happening in this series. Sorry, Knicks. It was a good year. You overachieved, and you have promise. And I don't mean this maliciously, but I think you got to get rid of Randall. And if you bring in a true number 1 to go with RJ Barrett and Jalen Brunson and some of these role players like Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson has value. Hartenstein has been good off the bench. I think the Knicks could be working with something. But right now, they've hit their ceiling.
I will say Josh Hart's been really good in the postseason, like been the lifeblood of this team. He's played great in the defensive end of the floor. He's made shots when he's needed to. But Julius Randle almost seems like a cancer. Like he doesn't mesh well with his teammates, and he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, and he gave some very troubling comments after the game too. He said, somebody asked him, how are the Heat coming up with all these offensive rebounds and loose balls? And he said, I don't know. Maybe they just want it more than us. What are you talking about, dude? You're the best player on your team, supposedly. You're one of the most tenured players there. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, rebounding's all effort. Obviously, the ball is going to bounce in some ways that you just can't control. But for the majority of the time, if you are the aggressor under the hoop and you are the one taking it to your opponent, you're going to get more rebounds. Like, rebounding is all about effort, and they haven't shown that. They just haven't played with a lot of effort. They look like they look uninterested. Maybe when they get back to MSG, in a couple days, they'll be a little more interested and want to play basketball. But right now, this series could end in 5 games, most likely ends in 6 back in Miami.
I had a futures bet on the Heat to win this series, and I had a futures bet on the Lakers to win their series. I said I was up 10 units in the playoffs. If I win both of these, both teams are up 3-1, I will be up 18 units. So not a bad time to be me.
You parlay them?
I did not. And I'm also kicking myself, Tanner, because I had my Lakers in the West, Celtics in the East parlay, which still looks like it has a pretty good chance of hitting, except I also included the Bruins to win the Stanley Cup, and they lost in the first round. So that's a little disappointing.
Yep. Ticket's dead, Grant. You don't have to talk about it. Brag like you're a big shot.
Thanks, Tanner. Thanks. You asked, by the way. Hey, look, that's basketball. That's basketball. We've done enough about basketball. Let's bring it on over to football season, Tanner. You got the Beantown on, and we're not going with, well, actually, is New England Beantown? Does that count?
Yeah, it does. I mean, Beantown's definitely New England. I mean, if you're in Boston, you identify with the Patriots. Like, you can jump on the commuter rail and get to Foxborough, which is probably in 30, 45 minutes outside of Boston. Probably 45, I would say. Like, it's all the same. I wish they played in Boston. There just wouldn't be enough room for them.
Yeah, there wouldn't be. But anyway, guys, what we are doing here, the reason I brought up New England is because we're talking about the AFC East. And the reason we're talking about the AFC East is we are going to be previewing across the next 8 weeks every division and the NFL. And this time, this show, we are starting with the AFC East, and we're going to go through team by team breakdown, just talk about what we're expecting from them coming up in this next season. And we're going to start it off with the division favorites, the Buffalo Bills. You can get them at plus 130 to win the division. I got these odds from FanDuel Sportsbook. By the way, while you're here, while you're listening to this, pause this video, come back to it, but go on over to WSN, the World Sports Network, go to the website, get yourself a FanDuel promo code. If you do that, you will be able to win $150 worth of bonus bets simply by signing up, creating an account, and making your first bet with the FanDuel promo code. It's a great time to do it. Got the NBA playoffs going on. We got NHL action. We got MLB, all sorts of stuff you could ask for. So go ahead on over there. You got no reason not to. Tanner, Buffalo Bills plus 130 to win the division. They're my pick to win the division. I mean, teams are usually favorites for a reason. Josh Allen coming off a year, he had 4,300 yards, 35 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Was a little slow to the finish line. He was in the MVP race through about 8 to 10 weeks, and then he pretty significantly fell out of it, but I think that was partially because of the injuries that he sustained, and those, I think, come from him running the ball so much. Well, they signed Damian Harris, they signed Latavius Murray. That's going to take some of the brunt off of his shoulders. Obviously, they got Dalton Kincaid in the draft, so that's another weapon for him to target. I think it's unreasonable to not have expectations of at least hitting the championship game for the Bills, and to say any less than that is probably a failure of the season.
Well, first off, Josh Allen is on the open market, ladies, just to let you know. So the revenge tour probably is coming in full effect this year. He's going to be stepping up big. With that being said, the Buffalo Bills are a team that is a regular season hero. And when it comes to the postseason, they can't deliver, because you know who owns Josh Allen? General Joseph Lee Burrow owns Josh Allen. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about in the division. In the division, they're clearly the favorite. Obviously, he's really good. What it's going to take for Josh Allen to take the next step as a quarterback is for him to absolutely get popped running the football and decide that I need to play a little less reckless. He needs to sit in the pocket and pick people apart. He's good enough to do it. Obviously, the legs are a critical part of his game, but it's going to come down to a point where he can't play the way he does. Like, they were up 6 touchdowns last season at times, and he's running the ball into the goal line and lowering his shoulder. Like, you just can't do that over the course of the NFL, over the course of your career in the NFL, and have a long tenured career. It's just not going to happen. I think adding Damian Harris and Latavius Murray really helps this team. With that being said, though, he's still going to run the football. So until you can get that transformation, and this is what analysts talked about all last year, until you can let Josh Allen know that I'm going to sit back in the pocket and pick teams apart, I don't think this Bills team takes the next step. Obviously, threw for a ton of yards, but he can't play as reckless as he does.
Yeah, I agree. And he's had some very questionable gaffes in the postseason, just some inexplicable decisions, some weird turnovers. You remember earlier in his career, he was running down the sidelines and he turned around and just threw the ball backwards over his head, which led to an interception. He's still got some of that scared of the dark, like a little child in him in the playoffs. And he's also going to have to overcome that. He needs a career-defining playoff moment. And, I mean, the closest he got was in that championship game against the Chiefs, but they still ended up losing that game. So he needs something to really go his way. Von Miller's coming back. He's healthy. That's going to be a big help to the defense, but a big loss. Tremaine Edmonds, he now plays for the Chicago Bears. How is Matt Milano going to do captaining that linebacker core? We're going to have to wait and see. I mean, losing Tremaine Edmonds, I hold him in the highest regard. I think he's the best linebacker in football. So naturally, if I didn't pick the Bills to win the Super Bowl last year, I'm definitely not doing it this year. But like I said earlier, still got them winning this division. The New York Jets, they're next in line at plus 250. And Tanner, obviously, the move of the offseason, they traded for Aaron Rodgers. How do you see that transforming this team, if at all?
Hey, it can't hurt him, right? I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been doing their whole offseason program as well, which I don't know if that's legal. It must be legal because the trade was supposed to go through. But I saw on NFL Live yesterday that he was doing the first part of the training program, and they're now in phase 2 of it. So he's fully locked into Jets football. I think he's excited to be in New York. My fear is, how is he going to handle the New York media? Because he doesn't like answering questions. He's a smart ass in press conferences. And I just don't know how that's going to play into that New York mentality. Now they have Alan Lazard, they have McCole Hardman, they have tons of weapons on offense, and they have a really good defense from last year. But in the back of my head, I'm still like, okay, this is the Jets. Like it's the Jets. And we kind of have that theory for, like, you know, a team like the Diamondbacks or a team like the Orioles. Like, it's the Diamondbacks, it's the Orioles, it's these teams that just have not been good consistently over a long period of time. We had it with the Kings, like this bias of teams that just have not performed. And the Jets, I still feel like that. I think they're going to shock some people this year, but I can't see them overtaking the Bills in the division, or I just can't get behind betting them to win the division.
I'm with you, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the Jets make the wild card. Here's something very interesting that I did a little analysis of, and I might have talked about this before during the mock draft that we did. But if you look at last season's stats for the Jets and you take all the quarterbacks that played, because there were a lot of them, and you add up all their passing yards, they threw for more passing yards than the Packers quarterbacks threw for last year, which was Rodgers and then one game of Jordan Love. So they were moving the ball downfield. Now, obviously, you're bringing Rodgers in, hoping that he's not going to have even close to as many turnovers as the Mike Whites and the Zach Wilsons and the Joe Flaccos did. And if he can do that, if he can just hold on to the football and get his guys in positions to succeed, then it's automatically going to be an upgrade. And this team that was close to the playoffs, but a couple games out, should be able to sneak into the wild card. Do they have that elite ability to get into that, you know, the 13-4, the 14-3 range to challenge with the Bills? I'm not totally sold on it. And I think that cultural bias can be unfair, but at the same time, being in a winning culture also just instills winning mentality and winning habits into you. And the Jets are young. They're sort of rebuilding their roster, and a lot of those players come in with that youthful ignorance. So maybe they're not used to losing like a lot of the Jets players are. But Aaron Rodgers coming off the worst season of his career, or certainly of his recent history, I think it's still too lofty to expect them to win this division.
Yeah, I like Robert Saleh a lot. I like what they're doing. And obviously they have Nathaniel Hackett calling the plays, and he worked well with Rodgers. Couldn't be a head coach to save his life. But I like the Jets. I'm not going to root against the Jets. If I had to pick a team to win the division, I mean, I would say I'd rather see the Jets win the division, but if I had to pick a team to go to the Super Bowl out of the AFC East, just as like out of my fandom, I'd rather see the Bills go, because I want them to get over the hump. Like once Buffalo wins a Super Bowl, I think it's going to be a long tenured success and championships and all that, but they finally got to take the next step. Jets don't deserve that yet. They're still building, but I'd like to see the Jets do well. I think this division's better when the Jets are well. You remember the days like Antonio Cromartie and Darrelle Revis, like when the Jets were decent and they gave
Mark Sanchez was good for a little bit there too.
Like it made football better. The division was better when they were a good team.
Yeah, I agree. And the Bills, just to touch on it real quick, like you said, they've got maybe the most disappointing history in football. They get to the Super Bowl 4 years in a row and lose them all. It kind of feels like, I mean, at least they're not having the heartbreak of losing in the Super Bowl, but it feels like they're in the same place, running into a wall in a hard place, which is Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. If they're going to break through, it's probably got to be this year or next year. So for that reason, I mean, sure, if they can turn it into a Super Bowl run, I would like to see them be able to do it. But if we're just talking about, you know, it's going to be second round and then exit as per usual than the Bills, then screw it. I want the Jets to win.
Yeah, I agree. Dolphins. Tua has a brain still, allegedly. I can't get behind the Dolphins in any way, because I think if he takes one hit, he's going to be done. This man should retire from football. He should not be playing football anymore.
I feel so bad for him. I really do. But I agree with you. How old is Tua? 25, 20? He's not old. He's not old. He's
24, 25.
Yeah, so he's basically our age. And it's I don't want to say it's unfair. You should never tell somebody to give up on their dreams. But in this case, it's preserving yourself. You've made millions of dollars. Dude, you could end up with serious long-term brain effects. And I understand that he's not guaranteed to get another concussion. I know he can be smarter. I know he can go down sooner, all this stuff. But I squirm every time I see him take a hit, and it's going to be even worse this season.
Yeah, so I'm looking up his career earnings currently right now, and I know he did a lot of programs in the offseason about learning how to fall when you get tackled and something and all that, but, like, it doesn't matter if you learn how to fall. Defensive linemen don't care. They're not going to put you down on your back and just say, "Hey, like, hey, I'll tuck you in." Like, no, they're going to try to, they're coming after you to try to hurt you. Like, that's just the way football works. And the fact that he is still playing is a concern to me. He has made $25 million over the past 3 seasons. So if that's invested properly, he will be okay. His kids will be okay. And his kid's kid will probably still have some money in there too. So I would take the money and run, go be a coach, go do brand deals, go do something. You've made enough money, and I know he wants to play football, and I know he wants to make money playing football, but like your brain is scrambled, and he's made enough money at this point of his career after 3 seasons, $25 million, where he could go do whatever he wants for the rest of his life, money aside, and be okay.
Yeah, I agree. As far as the actual betting odds at plus 290, again, the Jets were plus 250. I think the Dolphins should be lower. I know they made an offseason move for Jalen Ramsey, and I'm not saying Jalen Ramsey is bad, but he's certainly not the best corner in the league like he was. He's probably in that top 10 sort of conversation, floating around the 10th mark. Bradley Chubb was the big addition last season, and he made an impact, but certainly not as big as someone like a Roquan Smith did, or someone like I think Tremaine Edmonds is going to do to the Bears. And then you've got some other good players. I mean, Jalen Phillips is really good. Christian Wilkins is really good, but you lost Gesicki, and I know that's a little bit of that's not as important as Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill, but still, it's a hurt to the offense. You don't have a true number one back. Raheem Mostert is there, but that's not somebody you can count on to be your bell cow. Mike White as your backup, I get it. It's a smart play for a team that wants to make the playoffs, but as far as winning the division or even getting to the championship game of the Super Bowl, I don't see that in the cards for this team.
No, you can't. I mean, Jalen Ramsey's not that good. Tua, if he gets hurt, the team's done right there. Just Mike White, as good as Mike White was, I just can't see them doing anything there. I will say, I love Mike McDaniel. I think Mike McDaniel's my favorite coach in the NFL. Just a cool guy. So I'm rooting for him. I want the Dolphins to be good, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
I don't either. And we weren't that high on Tua when he was fully healthy either. I mean, we thought he was kind of a byproduct of having all the playmakers around him and being in Mike McDaniel's system. So the fact that he's been injured all the time really doesn't help his case. And then Tanner Beantown, the reason that we started this topic the way we did, Patriots plus 750. Is this Mac Jones's last dance in New England if it doesn't go well?
It probably is if I had to pick, but you have Bill O'Brien coming in as the OC. Obviously, Bill O'Brien's a reputable OC. He's not a defensive coordinator. He's not a former head coach, special teams guy. He is a offensive mind. He's an offensive guru. So I don't know if you're going to get the same effect as you did with Josh McDaniels and Mac Jones, but you're going to probably see a jump from Jones. Now, he is probably going to be done if he doesn't come through this season, because he had the great first season. The second season didn't go his way. He was a little whiny on the sidelines, a little pouting, but he didn't have that leadership. He didn't have that coach that was going to get him to the next step. So I understand why he declined year to year. Now he's got to take the next step and become that guy. He's no longer a rookie. He's not a sophomore. He is in his third year in the league. This is the time when you're good enough to lead a team to the Super Bowl. This team is not going to the Super Bowl. I don't know why they drafted the way they did, a punter and a kicker in like the fourth and fifth round or fifth and sixth round. I stopped watching. I was so sick.
That's such a Belichick thing to do.
It is a Belichick thing. And I can't sit here. I'm just a little podcaster blogger. So I can't sit here and say that Bill Belichick is doing something wrong, because I don't know. I trust Bill Belichick. I trust Bill Belichick my life. The man knows what he's doing. But like the Cole Strange draft pick last year was horrendous. He was terrible. Drafting 2 specialists in the NFL draft. Like, you can get specialists. Now, I get it. They change games. But if we're relying on a kicker and a punter to go out and win games, if that's how bad our offense is going to be, that's going to be an issue. So I don't want to sit here and say Bill Belichick was wrong. I want him to be right, because I don't have that right to say that he's wrong. It just doesn't look like the Patriots are in a good spot right now.
You know who else is in a good spot? I don't like Juju Smith as the number one. I don't think you can have a playoff offense with Juju as your number one wideout. And I know he was technically the number one on the Chiefs team that just won the Super Bowl. That's very different. You had Andy Reid, you had Patrick Mahomes, you had Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce was the number one wideout, even though he's a tight end. Juju as the one wideout with Bill O'Brien. I know he's been there before, but this is his first year back in the pros. Mac Jones, who we were just talking about, might be on his way out of town. Bill Belichick, as great as he is, not an offensive mind. I don't think this is an offense that's set up for success.
I like it in the sense of he's a name. Like, we haven't had a legitimate wide receiver name, just a name in town, right? Like, there's been no good names, Nelson Aguilar. Like I'd much rather have Juju Smith-Schuster being my wide receiver number one, because at least it's a name.
I mean, fair enough, I guess. The name I'm going to be watching, Tanner, the reason I think this team could be interesting, Christian Gonzalez, plus 1,000 to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. This guy's really good. He ran 4.3 at the Combine. He can play press coverage really well. He's physical. I think he's going to be perfect for this Belichick system as long as he has a work ethic. And I mean, all first-round draft picks have work ethic for the most part. So if he comes ready to work as a rookie and he gets to work with Belichick, the greatest defensive mind in the history of football, I think he's going to be a stud for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, Patriots are going to push for a playoff spot. I mean, they're going to be competitive. I don't think they're as bad as plus 750 shows them to be. It just comes down to, is Bill O'Brien going to be able to get in Mac Jones's head, and are they going to be able to do something offensively? And it still starts to run the football. If they can't run the football, forget about it, because Mac Jones isn't a guy that's going to sit in the pocket and dissect you. He needs to work off play action.
Yep, agreed. Tanner, favorite time of the podcast. Did you hear? You ready for this, Tanner?
I've been ready.
Devin Booker.
Are you riding? Wait. Are you riding?
Oh, I'm riding, Tanner. I'm riding. Come on. I just rode right into the next segment, the best segment on the show. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant scored the second most points for a duo in NBA history across a 2-game stretch. That happened in games 3 and 4. They scored 158 points. Now, without looking off the top of your head, any guess who the first duo is? The most points by a duo in a 2-game stretch in NBA history.
Something with Michael Jordan. It's got to be something. It's got to be. I don't know who the counterpart would be, but it's got to be something with Michael Jordan or Kobe or LeBron.
It was actually Orlando Woolridge and Michael Jordan. Yeah, Jordan had, I think, 112 of their 161 points in 2 games. That's the most by a duo in a 2-game stretch in playoff history. Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco had a very successful rookie year. I think he broke 1,000 yards, obviously won the Super Bowl, but he played in that Super Bowl with a torn labrum and a broken hand. Is there anybody with more grit in the NFL than Isaiah Pacheco?
Well, if I think back to the game, he really didn't do a whole lot. So maybe we now know why.
I mean, even still, torn labrum, I guess. I mean, first of all, that hurts, but you're not throwing the ball as a running back, but a broken hand, like
I want to see. Isaiah Pacheco was the biggest sell-high running back of fantasy football season last year. I want to see what he did in the Super Bowl. I'm very, very curious. Let's see. He went 15 for 76. I should have.
I mean, for a Mahomes offense, that's all you need.
Oh, not yet. No, Isaiah Pacheco's right. No, I'm not Pacheco. I'm having a brain fart. I was thinking about what's his name, the other little guy, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yeah, I'm stupid. I haven't talked about football in so long. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the biggest sell-high running back of all time. But Pacheco, shout out to him. Now he's a dog. That's a straight dog. I messed up. I was thinking of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Straight dog, Isaiah Pacheco.
How do you stiff arm somebody with a broken hand?
I don't know. It finds a way to do it. 15 for 76 with a torn labrum and a broken hand. That's epic.
That is epic. You know what else was epic, Tanner? Bryce Harper meets Masataka Yoshida. Now, I didn't know about this. You probably did because he's on the Sox. But Yoshida's idol is Bryce Harper. He named his dog Harper. And Bryce Harper took a picture with him, gave him some cleats, gave him some bats. That was just pretty cool to see. I mean, it's awesome that we've got to remember these guys, these professional athletes, to some people are idols, to some people, we report on them, we talk about them, but they're also just humans. They have likes and interests too, and they're fans of people. So it was cool to see that fandom just coming out before a game.
Yeah, it's even better. The Red Sox took the series and they shoved that bat right up Harper's ass. So it was good. Good stuff.
Hey, don't talk bad about Harper. He came back from Tommy John in like a month, and he's already dealing again.
Like 5 months, Grant, 6 months.
Look, faster than anybody's ever come back before. No big difference. And then the last thing I had wrote down, I already spoiled. Steph Curry has not made a shot in the final 50 seconds of a playoff game on a go-ahead. He is the greatest shooter of all time, and he is the entire Golden State Warriors offense. So my question for you is not, do you want him shooting this shot, but I guess just what do they have to do? Do the Warriors, are they looking to him too much in those final moments? Do they need to just get back to running their usual offense? What's the key here?
Great. If I had 14 game-winning shots in the NBA, I think I'm knocking one down.
From where? From three?
From three. I think I'm knocking one down. I throw it up because I guarantee Curry's had a wide open look in that margin. I guarantee there's been at least one. I'm making that shot.
I mean, I haven't seen you shoot the basketball before, but
I'm clutch. I'm clutch.
I mean, you got to be more clutch than Steph Curry. He hasn't made a shot yet.
I know, if you give the average Joe off the street, like I'll take let's maybe I'm hyping myself up a little too much, but let's go to like the nearest D3 school. Let's find a kid. Let's stick him in the NBA. He's making one of those shots. There's some kid on one D3 program that's going to make one of those shots. So Steph Curry, you should be embarrassed of yourself.
And I will say, I know he missed 2 shots with Anthony Davis covering him, and Anthony Davis was playing very good coverage. But in the second one, the step back from 29 feet, which again is where Jordan Poole shot that shot from earlier in the series, there was some separation. Now, I know it's a lone shot, but it's the greatest shooter of all time. It's somebody that's been making a bunch of threes so far in this playoffs. He has scored 50 points in Game 7. You can live with him taking that shot. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not saying he should make it, but I'm saying you definitely can live with that shot. And he didn't make it because apparently he never does. Tanner, the C block of the show, MLB headlines. Well, I know you're dying to get into this. So look, I'm just going to read it and I'm going to let you go. Don't let the Red Sox get hot. They've won 8 of their last 9 games. They're 21-15 on the season, which is insane because they're still 4th in division. But if they would be winning 3 other divisions in baseball. It just goes to show how good the AL East is. Tanner, take it away. This is your team.
The AL Central sucks. The AL West has a bunch of underperformers. The AL East is the only division with legitimate teams right now. And the Boston Red Sox, this team, don't let them get hot, Grant. 21-15. We shoved it up Phillies, you know what. We're shoving it up everyone's, you know what. We swept the Blue Jays over a 4-game series. We are that team. Masataka Yoshida, the greatest signing of Chaim Bloom's career. Alex Verdugo hits the ball around the – he just hits. It's that simple. He just shows up and hits, and then Rafael Devers comes through with the power. If we had somewhat of a reputable pitching staff, if Corey Kluber wasn't the guy that we stick on the mound to deliver for us, we would be a championship caliber team if they just figured the pitching out. But the fact of the matter is we're 21-15. Grant, if the season ended today, where would the Boston Red Sox be?
They would be in the playoffs, Tanner.
They would be in the freaking playoffs, Grant. Don't let the boys get hot. Now, they got to keep it up. Doesn't matter what you do in April, in May, in June. It matters what you do in July, in August, in September. You got to finish. Not saying they're going to catch the Rays, but I'm saying they're going to make a push for the playoffs because the Red Sox are back.
I got to give you credit, Tanner. I got to hold my hands up. You said the Red Sox were going over their win total of 78.5, which is a few games under 500. You said Yoshida was going to be the signing of the offseason. So far, you've nailed it. The Sox are now 3rd in batting average and slugging percentage. Like you said, they're 24th in ERA. If they can get any sort of production, and hey, who knows? Maybe the Sox are going to be buyers at the deadline. Get a little pitcher in there. That would be exciting. That would certainly help going into the playoffs.
They're not going to sell. I mean, they're definitely not going to sell. I mean, they don't have much to sell pitching wise, and then offensively, you can't sell any of those guys. Like unless they're totally out of it at that point, and they're trying to rebuild for the future. But they're only going to get better as the season goes on. They still haven't gotten Paxton back. Brian Bayo is going to be better and get better and better and better. Like Chris Sale's coming along. You know, some games he's good, some games he's bad. But this team could make a push for the playoffs, and they're gritty. That's the bottom line. It's Boston baseball. It's just it's a gritty city, Grant. It's a working class city, and that translates to the damn baseball team. And they just get after it every night.
You haven't even mentioned your best player, Adam Duvall.
He got hurt.
He'll be back. He'll be back.
Yeah, but he got hurt. I'm not thinking about him Duvall. I can't count on Adam Duvall when and if he comes back.
He's your best player.
If he comes back, I don't know if he'll even play baseball again this year. I think he's packing it in. I don't see that grit from Adam Duvall. He's not Boston born. Like Alex Verdugo spent his career in LA for a little bit, came to Boston. He knows what the gritty Boston lifestyle is like. Rafael Devers, all he knows is Boston baseball. Masataka Yoshida, all he knows is Boston. That was probably the first American city he's ever been to was Boston.
Tanner, what happened to the star pitchers in Major League Baseball? I don't know if you've looked at the ERA charts lately. The leaders are Sonny Gray, Justin Steele, and Bryce Elder. Yeah.
I mean, well, Justin Steele's pitching outside of his mind. Sonny Gray is a guy that can get outs. He's always been a guy that can get outs. Like McClanahan's still having a good season. If I'm wrong, I mean, I just didn't do my homework, but McClanahan's still shoving. Garrett Cole, I do want to talk about this for a minute. The Yankees, I think it was Sunday, had a 6-0 lead to the Tampa Bay Rays, and then they ended up losing 7-6. And Garrett Cole is a big part of that because he gave up a couple bombs. Like, that's just embarrassing. New York is a dumpster fire right now. And then Marcus Stroman, obviously, he's been pretty good too. But the main guys are Sonny Gray, Justin Steele, Bryce Elder. Justin Steele's been my Cy Young.
I mean, yeah, he's been great. By the way, McClanahan, he's 4th in ERA. So, yeah, he is shoving your guy, Tanner. I wish you could have him back right now. Erod, he's 5th.
He's not that good. He'll get shelled eventually.
Hey, I mean, you guys, you're not one to talk about getting shelled. You need all the help you can get on the mound right now.
Grant, we're 3rd in Major League Baseball in runs. We don't need to pitch. Pitching doesn't matter because we just show up and we just hit bombs every night.
One person who is not hitting bombs anymore, Nolan Arenado. This was somebody who was plus 1,200 to win the National League MVP going into the season. He was the top finisher in past couple of seasons, and he's now hitting 232, 3 home runs, 18 RBIs. The Cardinals are 12-24 and last in the National League Central. I certainly didn't see that coming. Did you?
No, well, Nolan Arenado, every time Nolan Arenado hits a home run, I look at Cardinals Twitter. It's just like, oh, the Rockies literally paid us to take Nolan Arenado from them. They literally paid us. Well, here's the thing. Nolan Arenado still plays a great third base, but he's not hitting right now. So maybe the Colorado Rockies had the right thought process in mind. I don't know. Obviously, they didn't. That was a stupid trade by Colorado. But Nolan Arenado is not stepping up. This whole Cardinals team looks terrible right now. They need to make a change. They need to figure out something because they're at risk of not even getting in the postseason. They could get hot. This is the team. Like, again, the season doesn't end in the first 2 months. You can't eliminate yourself. Cardinals aren't at that point yet, but they do have to start playing better. It starts with Nolan Arenado.
Tanner, who's your World Series favorite right now? Completely just off the top. First impulse.
I mean, you got to say the Braves, I would say. I mean, Braves in the National League, I think, are hands down better than a lot of teams. In the American League, I want to say Houston, but they've really underperformed too. I mean, there's not a team in the American League that I'll say is like hands down better than anyone. I guess you'd say the Rays, but the payroll, I think, is going to be a concern. If the Rays get there, great. I think the Blue Jays, an American League East team against the Braves. That's my take.
Well, there is an American League East team playing the Braves tonight, Tanner. That's the Boston Red Sox going against the Atlanta Braves. How are you feeling about that series?
We're going to walk into Atlanta and absolutely shove it up their ass. Like, we are, the Boston Red Sox are ready for this, like all that, the tomahawk chant shit like that. Atlanta doesn't know the storm that is coming down there tonight. It's Boston. It's gritty Boston Red Sox baseball. I can't wait. Because now we're 21-15. We ain't a team that you forget about. We are the team. We're the authority. We play in the best division in baseball, and we're coming down to show Atlanta what the real East is.
I think that was a perfect ending spot for this episode, Tanner. That was the drama we needed. Guys, thank you all so much for tuning in to episode number 11 of Ride the Line. Before you go, make sure you have subscribed to the channel, like the video, drop a comment, let us know what your favorite bets are for the rest of the week. And Tanner, why don't you take us on out of here?
That was Ride the Line, the most electric podcast in sports betting entertainment. Make sure to keep riding, smash the subscribe button, share, follow, and we'll see you next Wednesday for another episode.